let's take a look at the fantasy basketball waiver wire as we get ready to begin week 18. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and there's no relax, champ. No relax when I'm on Twitter. I'm on 10 until the second I close the app. You relax. I'm also the lead fantasy basketball analyst at basketballmonster.com. You can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. You know what to do. You hit the thumbs up. You hit the bell. I'm sure you've done it, so thank you. Big thanks for doing that. And thanks to everyone who has chosen to subscribe over here on YouTube. Audio still coming. Again, if you are an audio person, welcome to the video side. The audio feed will be back up. We're just waiting for it to all repopulate and transition over to our new provider, so that'll come Monday afternoon US time. So we're here to talk waiver wire. That's what we're doing. Why don't we just get in and do what we do in the waiver wire show? That's a good idea. We're talking about must roster players, droppable players, but we are getting close to the playoffs. Like in the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, there's 4 weeks left in the season. 1 regular season, 3 playoff weeks. That is my recommended end date for a fantasy season. 4 weeks to go. Some of you might have 5, some of you might have 6, some of you insane people might have 7, but that is all that's left. So we've got to shift a little bit more focus to short-term versus long-term stuff and be ready to move quickly when other opportunities arise. So we'll start off by talking about must-roster players. I'm looking at guys who over the next week to 2 weeks just should be on rosters. Who knows whether it sticks? And at this point of the season, that's sort of what we've got to be doing. Obviously, if you've got buys or locked in to positions, you can start to look 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead, depending on your playoff schedule. But that's not going to be for everybody. And these names that I'm going to bring up are just names that I think should be sitting on someone's roster across. We'll start with category leagues, of course. But we'll do points leagues in a second. I'm going to put Thompson at the top of this list because he's just really good. I had skepticism of how, not that he was good, but that Udoka would play him enough. And they've just said, well, we're not going to play Jalen Green, which is fine by me. And we're going to reduce Dylan Brooks a little bit. So Thompson, he sits at 52% rostered at the moment. He just needs to be on someone's roster everywhere. There'll be free throw percentage issues, of course, but he's actually got really good finishing numbers. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, they're all there. And he just needs to be rostered. With the end of season injury to Patrick Williams, Paul Williams, former Collingwood legend, Bulldogs assistant coach, Paul Williams. Patrick Williams, Adesumu's floor raises. Now, Adesumu was probably a must-roster guy anyway, but the fact that Williams does not return means that Adesumu's floor stays up. There'll probably be games where Drummond starts, but not many of them. So Adesumu just needs to be on a roster. You know the next guy, it is basketball Paul Reed. Until Joel Embiid returns, which I don't think is going to be this fantasy season, Reed needs to be on a category league roster. You can nitpick at any time he has a bad game, and I'm sure you'll ignore all the other good ones that happen, but he just needs to be on a roster. He is not Embiid. He's not a top 50 player, but he's a very comfortable must-roster guy. I've got Aaron Nesmith on this list. I don't know when he's going to be healthy, but I do think he should be on a roster. We'll reassess that if the injury lingers or we get more of an update on it. Trey Mann remains on this list. This list is it's not static, it's fluid. So if we say, hey, LaMelo Ball's back and Trey Mann's a 20-minute-a-night guy coming off the bench, we obviously drop him. But we don't know, A, that LaMelo will return, B, when he will return, or C, if Mann would move to the bench. So that means Trey Mann has to be rostered. And the last name there is Scoot Henderson, who also at the moment is injured. It's really frustrating that he had the starting point guard job, got it for 1 game and then got hurt. We hope he's able to come back. For now, again, we hold. And we see if there's any lingering long-term issue here with his groin, and then we make a decision from there. But for now, I just think Scoot should be on a roster, and we can, again, decide the other stuff later. For points leagues, A lot of the same names. Got Io DeSumo there. There's Io DeSumo, who's 46% rostered at the moment. Amen Thompson, Trey Mann, Brandon Pajemski. Again, we'll reassess that when Chris Paul returns. Pajemski's a better points league guy than category league guy. Therefore, he pushes up the list on a category, on a points league list versus category. He still should be rostered in categories as well. And the same goes for Keontae George, who I've got on this list for points leagues. He is the Jazz starting point guard. His efficiency is up. He should be rostered in categories as well. But in points, it's a far easier calculation to make to have Keontae sitting on your team. And then we've got the Scoot Henderson situation that I referenced already, because we just do not know if or when he is coming back. Well, I hope it's not an if. I hope it's just a when he is coming back. Let's talk about some droppable guys.
Get that garbage out of here.
I hope you know what I mean when I say droppable. You do not have to drop them. It just means that they're sitting on your roster and it doesn't make sense for you to have them, or someone else is out there and you need to stream in. You shouldn't feel terrible about moving on from this player. So let's look at some category league guys to begin with. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think that one's relatively obvious. He just is doing nothing because A, he's bad, and there are too many other guys there. And again, a lot of this stuff, when we try and assess the value, when you go, hey, well, they've got Reeves and Russell and LeBron, when is Dinwiddie going to handle the ball? And the answer is never, so you don't roster him. That is a very easy jack. The next one is Tim Hardaway. Now, if Kyrie goes down, if Luka is out, then we stream Hardaway in. But he's very much moved into the Leaky Beasley category of points, threes, streaming guys who's too inconsistent to consider a must roster. Sure, you can have Tim Hardaway without any queries at all. You can roster him, but you don't have to. Got Kelly Oubre on this list as well. The Sixers are getting healthy. Lowry, healed. Oubre's there, obviously. Melton, Batum. And Oubre's bad anyway, even in a 33-minute role, and he's not going to get that every night. Easy drop. Very easy drop. And the same with Bojan Bogdanovic. I said this after his game where he had like 6 threes and 23 points, and I said this sounds stupid, but Bogdanovic is a droppable player because he's not going to shoot 65%. He's not going to hit 6 threes and score 20 points. If he's playing 23 minutes, then he's going to be a droppable guy. Then the next game he played 18 minutes. And this is before Anunoby and before Randall come back. Sure, Bogdanovic can be a 12-team league guy for now, but you don't have to. Like, it's very easy to consider him droppable. The next one, Russell Westbrook, still insanely rostered in 88% of leagues. Why? I don't know. And the other one there is Jollibee Jalen Green, the Filipino legend. He's just playing poorly. He doesn't offer enough across enough categories, and you can't deal with the fact that he's struggling. If there are certain players that can struggle and you go, okay, well, that's fine. I feel good that they bounce back. But this guy bouncing back, what's his best case? It's not very good. So you do not need to be rostering Jollibee Jalen Green. On the points league side of things, a lot of the similar names. Spencer Dinwiddie remains a points league drop. Bojan Bogdanovic, who's still 72% rostered. He can be moved on from. D'Anthony Melton, I think, is a category league drop as well. I know that's controversial, but it's a very easy points league drop to drop the wave pool. No question about that whatsoever. In category leagues, there's just too many guys there. I could be proven wrong, and maybe he finds 29 minutes a night, but Nurse was sometimes struggling to give him 29 minutes a night before Heald and Lowry were there. Now that they're there and he's coming off a back issue, I just don't have super confidence in it. Kelly Oubre, again, very easy drop. I think Cam Johnson's a very easy points league drop. I think he's a pretty comfortable category league drop, to be honest, as well. But in points leagues, it's very straightforward. And then the Wizard of Naz Reid, just completely overrepresented in fantasy leagues, especially points leagues. Even last game, Gobert was out and the man did not start. So some people were holding on to a part of it. I did complain about Reid's roster, and I was talking about why is he so highly rostered, and I ignored the fact that the Wolves had that quality game on Saturday, which was my bad, because I've been preaching that all week, so I just missed that part. I forgot it, right? But just as a general rule, he's been over rostered for 17 weeks now, and part of the thing was, well, I'll just wait. It's for when Gobert, or if Gobert gets hurt, I've got a remade replacement. And Gobert got hurt, and he didn't do anything. It was Kyle Anderson who started, not Reid. So yeah, there's no justification in my mind for Naz Reid to be considered a must roster guy in 12-10 points leagues, or honestly, in category leagues either. Today's episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. Yes, Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost that you get when you look really good? Well, that's what you get when you sign up or you deal with Stitch Fix. Because Stitch Fix is your own personal stylist, a professional stylist helping you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. You give your stylist your size, your budget, and your style preferences. You order the boxes when and how you want. No subscription required. And they send you 5 just for you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. You keep what works, and the rest of it you send back. And those things that you send back, so easy. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. You don't want to go out to the shops and waste that time and effort. Let someone else do it for you and send you the things that make sense on trend, on fashion at the moment. Style makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. Okay, let's get into we've done the droppable players. Let's look at the most added players across fantasy basketball over the last 48 hours or so. So if we go ahead there, a lot of these, or the first two names on this are Orlando Magic players, because they had the weekend back-to-back and nobody else did. Mo Wagner was up 25%. Cole Anthony was up 22%. They are not long-term solutions, so we don't have to worry too much there. The other next interesting one is Jeremy Sohan, up 17%. I agree with that. He's been playing well at the moment. Last couple of games post-break have been very strong. That's no guarantee that it's going to last. We've got no problem taking a crack at that. The top three added guys on Yahoo. Again, I didn't want to double up names because I meant Thompson was the most added player, but I've already talked about him. Andy Nembhard, up almost 5,000 roster spots. I think in a 12-team category league, with the Pacers having a really good schedule, including a Sunday, Monday back-to-back, Nembhard is totally worth having. The next one is Bol, up 3,260. He's still only 3% rosters. That's interesting. He was up 3,000 ads and still only at 3%. Gives you an idea of how many leagues there actually are out there. Like I said with Bol, with Nurkic out last game, he was great. The game before, 0 minutes, DNP CD. And the Suns now do not play Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So people were adding Bol. They always get sucked into Bol, and they added him for Sunday, and there's no problem with taking that flyer. Assess what happens on Sunday, but then also remember they do not play for the first 3 days of next week. Then they do Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, which is strong. But can you deal with a fringe backup for zeros for 3 days? I think the answer will probably end up being no. And then DeAndre Hunter, up 3,200. Let's talk Hawks. We're going to talk more Hawks later. But Trae Young is out. Surgery on his finger for at least 4 weeks. That means, for a lot of you, that is done. Fantasy season over for Trae Young. You drop him. For those of you who end the season, your fantasy season on March 31st, he might come back for finals week. It's really hard to hold. You've got to hold through 2 regular season weeks and 2 playoff weeks. And you might need that IL slot. If you go through to Yahoo default April 7, I don't mind holding. I also, look, the Hawks are going nowhere. Yes, they're in the play-in, but could Trae Young's injury push past 4 weeks? Maybe. I did tweet this out yesterday, and then I did delete it because I didn't want to argue with people who are replying to me, right? I said, I get this weird feelings in my gut that Trae is going to end his season early. I said in March, obviously this is February. I said, I get this weird feeling. It's a gut call, there's nothing behind it. But then I realized, people were calling me. I didn't want to argue. They go, it's a bit irresponsible. I go, fair enough. I got an audience that listens to me, and I didn't want you to do anything based on that tweet. Less than 24 hours later, Trae's having surgery on his finger. I did not know any background information on that. That was just me trying to read the vibes of the situation to see that something weird was happening here. So that means there are a lot more shots to go around. Now, I'm being very skeptical of DeAndre Hunter. You got to add him now. He's on a hot streak shooting. There's going to be more shot attempts. He's not going to be great. He's not going to all of a sudden develop rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. I'm not super confident that he's going to maintain good efficiency, but you got to add him. You got to add Bogdan if he's available. Big bump for DeJounte Murray. And we're going to talk about what happens later on off the bench with those guys when we talk about it. Kobe Bufkin, we'll get to him later on. But Hunter's probably the very clear ad there. Obviously, Bogdanovic and Bay, if they're available, just more shots going around. But with Okongwu out now, with Trae out now, I do worry about some things going, somewhat awry. Somewhat awry in Atlanta. We will find out.
Get that garbage out of here!
Who have been the most dropped players over that period of time? Using our advanced metric on Basketball Monster, number 1 was Dennis Schroeder, down 19%. And I am 100% on board with that, except we got the injury yesterday to Ben Simmons with leg soreness, which then Kevin Ollie said he's actually having imaging on for a knee issue. And then the Nets came out and said, Kevin, shut up. He is not having imaging, and it's a leg issue, not a knee issue. Well, Kevin's actually right, because a knee issue is a leg issue, but that sort of ridiculous reporting and contradicting and correcting is annoying. This is why when Simmons was coming back, I said I really don't know how long he's going to last or how much I trust it, and another thing happened here. So Schroeder was a very clear drop, but Simmons is out, so maybe you want to hold. People dropping Ben Simmons, go for it. Who knows? Like, who knows what's going to happen with him? If you drop him, that's all good. Dylan Brooks down 11%. Easy jack. Asar Thompson's down 2,600 leagues on Yahoo. He's still at 62% rostered, but we saw it. Give Monty Williams any other option, and he will not play Asar. And this is, again, what we talked about at the trade deadline, where there were a lot of ideas of crowing that this was the unleashing of Asar Thompson. And I said, well, let's maybe wait and see what happens when Grimes plays. Let's see what happens when Stewart plays. And let's see if that Monty finds any excuse to reduce Thompson's minutes. And of course, the first game that Grimes plays more than Asar. And Stewart is still not back. I would probably want to hold Asar Thompson one more game, but I am not confident in that whatsoever. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, yep, that was, and Jaden McDaniels, they're very clear drops. That was streamed in for the Friday-Saturday back-to-back, and they are not belonging on 12-team rosters, not at all. Today's episode is also brought to you by Grammarly. No matter what kind of work you do, how you communicate is key. All the emails, reports, and presentations, they're all equally important to the collaborations that are needed to get things done, and Grammarly can help. Grammarly helps professionals get more done. You save time with one click and go from editing drafts in hours to seconds. 93% of professionals using Grammarly Premium report that it helps them get more work done. I use Grammarly every single day. I use it in writing audio descriptions. I use it in writing player notes. I use it in writing YouTube descriptions. I use it when I write articles. It's always there, and it has been for years and years and years. Spelling ideas, tone ideas, grammar ideas, brainstorm ideas. Grammarly can do all of that stuff. You can make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at grammarly.com/podcast. That is grammarly.com/podcast. Easier said, done. Okay, let's go on now to the hot players.
Happy birthday.
Who is a top 100 player over the last week that we haven't mentioned? Timothy John McConnell is on this list. He's been playing well. He's at least streamable while the Pacers have got this really good schedule. And while Neesmith is out, he can get you 15 and 6 in 19 minutes. He's not going to be super reliable that we need to roster in all spots, but I don't mind it. Fanapants Kevin Huerter, still 49% available. He's on a hot streak, and when Huerter's on a hot streak and the Kings have a good upcoming schedule, yeah, you can use him. 4 games this week. Quality games make sense for the Kings as well. Early week value there too. He's not going to be this good every week. We have seen this story every season where he has hot runs and cold runs, and when he's on a hot run, we go for it. Gaz Transpan top 100. I don't trust him at all, but he's very much in the Kevin Huerter, Leaky Beasley, Tim Hardaway, insert whatever other name you want, group of 3-point streamers who can get some steals guys. And that's what Trent is. I don't really know where his minutes go long-term or how they go, but for now, totally streamable, and that's about it. Terrence Mann is in this list as a top 100 player, mainly because he had that huge out-of-nowhere double-double. I don't trust that for a single second. Got Big Dick Nick Richards here, who just continues to be consistently good and consistently underrated. It might not be for your team in particular, but it should be for somebody in your league, and the fact that he still sits under-rostered and under 50% rostered is crazy. And then Leaky Beasley, just whatever I said for Gary Trent, whatever I said for Kevin Huerter applies to Beasley. Use the schedule, use the needs that he brings, and don't feel so absolutely locked in, needing to hold him under all circumstances. Let's talk about some injury replacement guys, because that does bring us in to talk about Trae Young's injury again and Kobe Bufkin. Now, Bufkin has barely played this season, so I do not think that this is the Hawks going to say, all right, Kobe, you are now starting next to DeJounte Murray. That will not happen. It will be Bogdan Bogdanovic. Patty Mills has been getting backup minutes. It's Patty Mills and Garrison Matthews that slide into those reserve roles. Maybe they dust off the posthumous legend AJ Griffin. Like, is he ever going to return from the dead? Like, what is this guy doing? But I don't know. It seems at some point you'd want to see what Kobe Bufkin can do. So if you are in a deeper league, sure. If you are in I don't have to actually compete for the next 2 weeks, maybe. But this is not Kobe Bufkin is starting immediately. I'd be very shocked if that is the case. But I do think that it is going to come. I think Bufkin will have an opportunity to put up some numbers, but I think it probably won't come until like mid to late March. I'd be shocked if we get big Bufkin minutes before the middle of March. I'd be pretty surprised at that, but I do think it will happen eventually. I think they will try Patty Mills as the backup. Or even if they don't, Bufkin will play 18 minutes as a backup. That's not enough to matter for 10, 12, or 14 team leagues. We need him 30 minutes a night, which is just so far away from happening. We keep an eye on the name, and we've been keeping an eye on it all the way through. He's been someone I've been talking about for months, saying at some point I think they give him a chance. A lot of that was because I thought they were trading DeJounte, and honestly, they were until last minute switch up by Quinn Snyder. And now Kobe has a different sort of an opportunity here. I've got Duncan Robinson on here. All of the guys that I thought would get suspended in the Pelicans Heat game, did get suspended, so Jimmy is out. So there are options with Jimmy out, with Rozier out, with Richardson out. Jovic is out. So Robinson is going to have at least a short-term bump on Monday. But while those guys are out, he just is a 12-team league player. And then when they filter back, he won't be. Rui Hachimura is only 23% rostered. Good. Like, people haven't gone crazy on adding Rui. But while Vanderbilt is out, while Wood is out, while Vincent is out, while Reddish is out, there are minutes and opportunities there for him. He has been shooting efficiently. That's good. He's a nice points guy. He doesn't offer very much else, good old tall Colin Sexton, but he does bring at least some efficient scoring, and there is something there to at least stream him short term without feeling too excited about it. I've got Jose Alvarado there, even though Jose is suspended. So Jose is suspended at the moment, so this is more of a longer term look. He's out for 3 games, so that's basically all of this week, but I've got him on this list because Dyson Daniels is out for at least another 3 weeks, and I worry about the severity of CJ McCollum's ankle injury. Now, if McCollum might be back before Alvarado, which means that is completely useless. But if CJ's out for 2.5 weeks, Jose will get a chance to be 27 minutes, double-digit scoring, 7 assists, 2.5 steals maybe. At the moment, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to start Jordan Hawkins, and he probably moves into that Jose Alvarado slot there. I've got GG Jackson on this list because he's still 37% rostered only. And we know there's going to be some issues with him percentage-wise, and his category league stuff is going to be pulled down by the way metrics rank him, but also just the fact that he's going to be negatives in a lot of categories. In points leagues, he just needs to be rostered. But I'm talking injury replacement here because at some point Jaren is going to be injured. And we've got Smart and Bane and all those guys out and guys coming in and out every game. And I think that GG and Vince Williams almost might be the safest guys who don't get those random rest games. And I've also put Corey Kispert on this list. Denny Avdia's out again with a heel issue. They didn't start Kispert last time. They started Landry Shamet. Made no sense, but they did. So Kispert's got a little bit of appeal there as a nice points and threes stream guy. Maybe he adds a little bit more. Just watch him if other injuries develop in Washington, though. And lastly, some other names for us to talk about. We are going to start with a couple of names in Memphis, Jordan Goodwin and Zaire Williams. Goodwin is now on a 2-way, but I'm telling you, it's going to be shenaniganized. He will sit multiple games. I think he can only play max for 15 games. So he's going to be in and out. Just when he starts, you stream him in. But the guy to watch who's sort of taken a starting role here over John Conchar is Zaire Williams. 2 solid games in a row. Probably more, I don't really trust it for 12s, but there's going to be a situation where they just don't have anyone capable, and much like the Johnny Davis April run last season, where he's bad, but he just got numbers. And maybe Zaire moves into that. Probably a little bit late on the Zaire stuff, but I do think that it's worth mentioning. He's still not really rostered anywhere, and we can have a look at that. Taylor Hendricks is 5% rostered. He's starting. He played 26 minutes without any fourth quarter minutes last game, almost doubled. I wouldn't say that you have to roster Taylor Hendricks, but I think we will be having that discussion in a couple of weeks saying you do. I think at some point we're going to see more given to him, more responsibility. Lowry will move out of the rotation at some point with an injury. That'll happen at some point. I don't know when. It's probably 3 weeks away. But I can see Hendricks, we've already seen it in the games that he's started, just more confidence. And if you want to get out ahead of it, it might be getting out ahead of it for a long time, but I do believe in Taylor. Bilal Coulibaly's last game was pretty strong. The game before that was not very strong, but last game came without Avdia and without Poole in the starting lineup, which is important. If you want to take a crack at that with Avdia out, I get it. If they are fully intact, I don't know that Bilal is a 12-team player, and he's going to be frustrating, but he's more of a punt points guy. Quentin Grimes played 26 minutes first game back for the Pistons. I really like Grimes. I've said this all along, that I do like Grimes. I didn't love the fit of him going to Detroit because Cade and Ivy exist, but looks like they're going to go 3 guards some of the time, and I don't trust Monty Williams in his rotation at all. But we do have to pay attention to Grimes. If I'm in a 14-team league, he is on my list of, maybe we do this. He didn't play awesomely in that first game back, but I think there'll be a stretch where we are talking about Grimes as a 12-team league guy if we're basing it on the way that Williams ran that rotation first game. But there's just too many complicating factors there. And the other one is Cam Whitmore, who can score in limited minutes, who can hit some threes and get some rebounds. I don't think we're going to get huge 28-minute-a-night run from Whitmore, but the Rockets are firmly in the lottery at the moment. Tari Eason, I don't think is coming back, so it's Tari next season now. Tari lost season. He's not coming back, I don't think. So that helps Whitmore's minutes, and then you might see a little bit of phasing out of a Jayshawn Tate, perhaps. So Whitmore's at least intriguing, not enough for me to be totally pumped about it, though. And that is a very quick fire waiver wire show. Bad news about the Trae thing again. Drop him in a lot of different formats. Highlighted that already. Don't forget to make sure you're paying attention to schedule. Look at where you are. If you're battling for the playoffs, it's got to be daily streaming now. You've got to be saying, I can't sit on Taylor Hendricks. I can't wait for this stuff. I can't wait for Kobe Bufkin. But if you're sitting pretty, maybe you can wait 2-3 weeks for those two guys, who are probably the two guys at the moment, Hendricks and Bufkin, who you go, maybe this hits in 3 weeks. Obviously, Hendricks has a clearer path. He's already starting. Bufkin literally might play 0 minutes still. That is completely possible. But it all seems to add up that something will happen for Kobe. Maybe, hopefully. Don't forget, thumb it up. Leave your comments, ring your bell, all that stuff down the bottom. And audio will be back soon. We're just waiting for the transition to happen and come across. So don't fret, that will appear. I appreciate you guys being here, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.